What is going on, Bucs fans? We are back here at the Pirate Parlay Podcast Special Edition. I told you guys we were going hard in the paint this month with guests galore, covering the Bucs, covering the draft. We've got another one. Super excited to have him in here. He's been on here before. He's a legend with the draft. He's a legend in Tampa Bay media, Pittsburgh too. One of the original OG draft guys. He's going to come in here, break down edge rushers and some other topics as well. We'll get into all that and more. We'll introduce him to the podcast right after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Back here on the other side again. Appreciate you guys for joining me today. If you're in the YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, hop on over to YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, get in here. I'll bring up your comments, especially when we do the live mock draft. I'll definitely take your feedback, all of that stuff. And anyone who's listening to the podcast format, appreciate you guys for sure. Come check us out live once in a while. We have a lot of fun in here. Super excited for my next guest. Before we get him in here, let's just a little housekeeping stuff that went on around the NFL. The dates have been announced for the offseason program, starting with rookie minicamp will kick off May 9th and the 10th. Offseason OTAs is going to kick off on the 27th of May, and then mandatory minicamp is going to be the June 10th, June 11th, and June 12th. We'll have access to players, head coach Todd Bowles. We'll also have an offseason assistant coach availability. So we'll talk with all the defense and special teams coaches, all the offensive coaches. That's going to happen May 13th and 20th on 2 separate days. We'll get that access. So a lot of good things coming up as far as content that we can talk about and producing. And then we'll also get into some of these player profiles once the draft is over. You know me. We'll get some players on the podcast, some coaches. We got to get Josh Grizzard on here. It's our annual ritual, I feel like. We get the new OC every year. Wasn't getting Byron on for obvious reasons, but so far, every time the Bucs have had someone come in as an OC the last 3 years, we've had him on the podcast. So why stop now? A little bit of other housekeeping issues. The Bucs have opened up some cap space. They're at $30 million in cap space right now. Not that they need it. Free agency is over. But they restructured the deals of Mike Evans, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Baker Mayfield, adding some guarantees, giving them some upfront money as well on those deals. And what that really does is allow them for the next wave. And the next wave of free agency for the Bucs isn't 2025, it's 2026. It's taking care of guys like Zion McCollum and especially Luke Gedeke. Maybe a guy like Rashad White, who Josh Capo, who's been on here, just did a great piece on what an extension could look like for him. Go check that out. You should be following his work anyway, especially when it comes to cap and draft stuff. And then, maybe even Cade Otton. Trey McBride just got a $19 million deal. And I know my guest thinks he's elite, but that's a lot of money for a tight end. But hey, inflation is here. So those numbers are going to come up. It gets you wondering, is a guy like Cade Otton worth $14-15 million a year? Just went over 500 yards for the first time, 550 yards for the first time. He's never had more than 5 touchdowns. It's not that Trey McBride is a touchdown producer. He's only got 6 for his career, but he had 111 receptions, 4,000 yards. Cade had, I think, like 55 for 604 touchdowns. So a little bit of a drastic difference in what the player is. But, we'll get our guest's opinion on that. You guys know him as the host and the content creator runner over there on Substack of Audibles and Analytics. He's got an amazing read optional podcast with Ollie Connolly. Does a Bucs podcast with Josh Capo. Sometimes yours truly will pop on there, make an appearance. He's a former Pewter Report alumni. And again, Draft Twitter OG. He's none other than the man with the 4 pillars of pass rush. And we'll break that down today. Jon Ledyard, my mentor.
Oh man, that was an unbelievable intro. I feel like anything I do or say on this podcast today is going to be a massive disappointment to people compared to that intro, but it is good to be with you, JC, as always.
You are now under the microscope, so whatever you say better be good. No, let's just jump in right away because I haven't really talked to you about what the Bucs did this offseason. I've obviously seen and listened to what your thoughts were, but for my listeners out here who don't subscribe to the Audibles Analytics Substack, what are you doing? It's $5 a month, and it is so worth it. I'm going to use one of Jon's nuanced conversations that they have there. They don't pull no punches back. They tell it like it is, how they see it. Doesn't matter. These guys aren't worried about players or agents' feelings. They're going to come out there and give those strengths, weaknesses. And that's what I love about it. You don't care. And it's great. And it's so informative. And I learn something every time I listen to you. And then when you throw Ollie in the mix, especially when he starts going off the rails with his swearing, I was just like, this is the greatest thing ever, because it's in an accent.
Yeah, we're all trying to curb that these days. We're trying to get him under control.
He's a little
we
wild,
want to put
man.
the explicit labels on our pods.
Right. But what did you think about what the Bucs did this year, bringing the guys back? You know, we know the list, but what did you think of what they did, their process, how they set themselves up for the draft, the future, and what were your thoughts on that wave of free agency and the moves they made?
Well, as usual, the structure of the organization, the stability of the organization remains really intact in bringing Chris Godwin back, and obviously had more money to go elsewhere, continuing to keep that nucleus in place, and just you also bringing Ben Bredesen back. I mean, I don't think that would have been a massive loss, but given that it wasn't expensive to keep him, and you keep stability and continuity on your whole entire offense, fan of that, I would say, given the options that are the alternatives, what they could have been. Defensively, they did make one big move, in my opinion, which obviously was Haason Reddick. And I say big, not necessarily. I think there's upside to the move. I don't really know. Honestly, I think it's probably one of the biggest unknowns in all free agency. Anybody speaking with conviction about what Haason Reddick will be this upcoming season, I think it's just either there's a biased perspective or is just trying really hard to feel however it is that they feel, because last year was a complete disaster, but it was barely on the field. It was mostly like off the field and negotiation stuff and the trade. And it was just such a mess from that perspective. But like, do we really think any less of him moving forward as a player because of that? It's not an injury. It's not really, maybe it's a character thing. I don't really even know. He's never had really character concerns before. Just a very odd, out of nowhere situation. I don't think anybody would have pegged Reddick as a guy that would be in a situation like that. And so anyway, all that aside, like, I think it's just a real total unknown. Like, on paper, if you go back, what I do know is that the 3 years before this past season, Haason Reddick was one of the better, the 4 years, actually, I would say, Haason Reddick was one of the better pure pass rushers in the NFL, I think, during that time. Yeah. So if you're going to say, well, he barely played this year, when he played, he was okay. Like, you get back to that. On paper, he's exactly what the team needs, and the cost isn't great either. Now, you almost would say if he does great, you wish you had him for a second year on the contract, because then the next year is going to be. But I'm sure part of the negotiation with him was, I'll get the player for sure. There was an obvious path to that for a good team, and I will get the opportunity to get back on the market right after I bring my value back. So he's going to be extremely motivated. If there is still that same talent in there, the Bucs are going to be the beneficiaries of that. So I lean toward being really optimistic about this, but it is definitely a big question mark. Like, will this be exactly what they need? Which, like I said, the previous 4 years before 2024, Haason Reddick would have been exactly what this Bucs defense needs. If he's that player, is it exactly what they need? Or is it another rotation guy who can't finish, and but they haven't had anybody who can be that screamer. Now they have really opposite skill sets, and Yaya Diaby, who's the pocket pusher, the power guy, and you have the speed bend guy around the edge in Reddick. And then you can sort of build your pass rush plan, your 4-man rush plan, and you can funnel the quarterback in a specific area because of the contrasting skill sets on either side of the line. So I love the move on paper. I also have no idea whether it's going to work out or not, and they probably don't either. So that will be the interesting one. I honestly didn't like most of the depth moves that they made. Obviously Jason Light, I'm a huge fan, and so I do trust him. I think he's awesome at what he does. I have never pegged Anthony Walker as a player that I've been super interested in. I mean, he's better than KJ Britt for sure. He's better than Devin White was. So there is that. But again, the bar has to be set higher. Hard to do at linebacker though. Everybody re-signed with their teams and didn't actually hit the market for the most part. And you really don't want to overpay for this. So the Bucs are right to be cautious. I don't necessarily think they solved the problem, but Walker can at least be a pro and play, and he fits the culture for sure. So I understand that part of it. I just don't think like either he or Dennis are going to be starters. And I would be treating Levante David as if ideally he'd be your third linebacker. Doesn't mean he'll play as a number 3, but just that he wouldn't have to play every single snap throughout the course of the season is how you should approach it. I think maybe he does, but it's just no reason at his age, you should never be expecting that to be the standard. So they really need more options at that position. And also, if we're being realistic, you can't solve every problem in every free agency, and there just weren't a lot of options out there. I did think there were more options in the secondary. To me, Kendall Vildor is very underwhelming and not a player I would have pegged as somebody I've actually studied, because I covered the Lions for a year, just like did write-ups on their all-22. Yeah. So I studied his game a good bit over the last couple seasons, really, when he's played. And I just think he's a lacking player. He competes, but he's just small. He's not I don't think of him as somebody you want in your top 4 corners. If you have to sign somebody off the street because you have injuries, you could do a lot worse. But I just think he's too limited to be in that group. So maybe he
had that position last year with Josh Hayes and Tyreek Thunderberg. So if he becomes your 4, they draft one, maybe he bumps down to 5 because you have Bryce Hall. You feel good about the rehab and what he looked like in camp. And what
that's another big question too, is Bryce Hall. He wasn't exactly like covering himself in glory before the Bucs signed him before last season. And then obviously, there were some good signs early on, but it wasn't really like live bullets type of stuff. And so he comes with his fair share of concerns, even about whether he's an NFL rotation player. And as much as I like Bryce Hall as a prospect, and so I've been sort of a little bit more likely to be patient with his process, maybe because of that, I won't say either of these guys have been good pros necessarily. So, are they better than Thunderberg and Hayes? Yeah. I mean, those guys are just brutal. But I think that the hope was that they would aim a bit higher. I understand why they couldn't do that at linebacker right now. So I'm a situation, but the secondary stuff, to me, I was definitely a little bit disappointed that, the safety wasn't acquired. I think Justin Reed was price-wise right there. I don't know how interested they were, how much they really went after him. And then at corner too, just not getting better depth when there was good players. There was good players available. The prices weren't insane for a lot of those players. And so I did think that was one, if I'm going to be a little bit critical and try to be fair, because I'm usually very complimentary of the Bucs organization. I think they're awesome. But I would say that was one maybe missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, things don't change. John comes with the hard evidence and crushing facts that some people don't want to hear, and spotty Wi-Fi connection. So things don't change.
It's actually not my Wi-Fi. It's just StreamYard. The StreamYard service with Macs, with MacBooks especially, it's a very like hit or miss connection. I don't know how much you've looked into this ever, but it's one of the StreamYard negatives, I guess. There are a lot of positives to it.
Well, I like what you brought up about Haason Reddick, because there's going to be optimism, right? You go back and you look at this dude and what he did over 4 years before the craziness that was last year. Yeah. And it's got a lot of people excited. 17 forced fumbles, strip sacks galore. Like he was that dude. But what does that look like? We've seen this happen with other players, whether it's injury, whether it's holdout, they just never look the same. Le'Veon Bell was one of them, with the Jets, went to the Jets, who just never looked the same after that extended time and whatever happened behind the scenes. I don't know if that's the same case with Haason Reddick. I think, he does have a lot to play for, as you mentioned. The biggest thing for me, even if he's not the baller he was and 10, double-digit sack and forced fumble monster, for me, he opens up a lot for Yaya still, because teams are going to treat him like that, and now I'll open up some, instead of getting all those chips and double teams that Yaya faced last year, a lot of the time he'll have that opportunity to get a little bit more one-on-ones with left tackles. Doesn't make it much easier, but at least he'll have that opportunity, I think. And that's, for me, one of the bigger upsides is Haason Reddick. What can he do to help Kalijah? What can he do to help Yaya? What can he do to help Vita Vea, to a lesser extent, kind of take those next steps? Or Vita just kind of stay status quo because he's just a monster. How does he help those guys? Because you're right. It was a 1-year deal. They got him cheap, $14 million, 12 guaranteed. If he goes and balls out next year, he's probably looking at the markets around $20 million right now. Do the Bucs want to give that to a 31-year-old pass rusher over 3 years? Maybe over 2, maybe over 3. I don't know. So, that's why I think edge rusher is still a big priority in this draft. And I know people will be like, well, they drafted Braswell in the second round. They brought back Anthony Nelson. Look, I'm going to hold my breath with Braswell. And Nelson is what he is. He's a playmaker. He's a dog. He's someone that you love. He's the next Will Golston, going to be here forever. Everyone's going to love him, Buck, whatever. But you don't have that dude still. And if you have a chance to draft one in the first round, I think you have to. And there's a couple guys there, and we'll go over those guys because, the biggest reason I want you on here because your expertise is the edge rushing room. So let's start there, and let's start with someone who everyone's in love with for the Bucs, and that's Donovan Ezaraku. What have you seen from him that makes him a Bucs fit and can be a successful pro at the next level, especially in a draft class that I think is pretty solid, pretty deep, but you have Abdul Carter and that's it. And it's a huge drop off, and everyone else is borderline fringe, late first round, probably more second round prospects there as far as true edge rushers go. What is it about Donovan Ezaraku that could get him to the Bucs at 19? And what are your thoughts on him? And does he meet the four pillars? And if he doesn't, why not?
Yeah, so the four pillars of pass rush athleticism that you're referring to would be burst off the ball and explosiveness in your first step. Then speed to be able to kind of maintain that explosiveness up the arc. Your bend and flexibility would be the third one to be able to corner, because winning high side as a rusher, as an edge pass rusher in the NFL is extremely important. And then the ability for the fourth one would be the ability to change directions, especially I would say like stop start, because you are sort of throwing hezzies at people basically as an edge rusher. Can you cross the face inside? Can you jab outside, cross face inside, exploit that path to the passer? I think is a big question mark. So yes, he has the pillars. I wish he was a little more explosive for his player type. I think it's good enough, but it's one of those things that if you're a smaller edge rusher who relies on winning high side and winning around the outside edge of the tackle, most of these guys are so much more technically sound in their pass sets in the NFL, because there's so much more true pass setting in the NFL. They're just practiced it way more. So without that great first step, it does become a little bit harder to win as a high side pass rusher. However, I still think he's my edge 3. I think he's still very clearly, he and Mike Green are kind of the same grade for me. They're very similar. I make that argument, I think, either way, but I just think very highly of Ezaraku from this perspective of his bend and flexibility at the top of the arc. He can run under punches. He can bend through punches. Like, there's just a lot of ways for him to corner, and he has really long arms. He's not a big player, but he's got some of the longest arms of any of the edge guys in the class. So he can
34
reach.
inch, I believe.
Yeah. He can reach around blockers to get to the football. So I think that he has really good potential. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue was maybe a little bit like this, a little bit like Ezaraku in terms of skill set. I think Ezaraku might be a little bit of a more consistent player in terms of effort than maybe Ngakoue was. But in terms of pass rush ability, they do sort of remind me of each other, and that both were high side rushers. Maybe neither were like the best testing athlete of all time. And I don't remember what Yannick ran in the 40, but I don't think Ezaraku would run a good 40 if he ever desired to the
The 3-cone and short shuttle was I don't know. When you're
the short area agility stuff. Yeah, those did not surprise me at all. That is where he wins. But if you watch him on tape when he tries to stride out, it's like his hips are locked. His legs don't really open up all the way. So I don't think he's fast, but I don't think it matters. Like, again, pass rush athleticism, right? I'm not talking about speed over long distances when I talk about those things. So very important to differentiate athletes. James Pierce is an athlete, right? He's going to test awesome in a lot of ways. Athletes from functional athletes and guys who move functional to their position. There are specific movements that edge rushers make that wide receivers don't make, that cornerbacks don't make. And so those specific movements are the athletic in those specific ways, because that matters a lot more than how much you test. Everybody lost their minds when Jadeveon Clowney ran that 40, right? And Jadeveon Clowney obviously has had a good, solid career, but he never became what people thought he would. And the reason was he couldn't bend. He could not turn corners functional to his position. And he was so explosive, and which is also a trait that matters. Obviously, like that he had that pillar of fast rush athleticism that he was still able to have a good career, and he transitioned, was an inside rusher a lot, and the speed to power conversion was good. And he still made himself a lot of money, still been a good player, but he never lived up to those elite, like this is one of the best guys we've ever seen type of comparisons, because he was missing one of those big pillars that really matters. And he was never able to be a really good high side rusher, and he never had those crazy sack numbers for a long time in his career because of that. So that's why those traits really matter. You can be a really good athlete, but functional to your position athleticism is a different conversation than what most people understand it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Javian Clowney. I mentioned this guy to Trevor the other day. I had him on Wednesday. Vernon Golston. I said, "Who's this? Who's this year's Vernon Golston? Is it Shamar? Is it Shamar Stewart? Is that the guy who just tested incredible, but can he play? Is a big question mark."
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is possible. Shamar Stewart also has no college production, and so there are a lot of questions. To me, my biggest question with Shamar Stewart, I think he actually has the athleticism. Like when you talk about the pillars, especially at his size, I think he has those abilities. But his lack of awareness and mental processing is so deficient at this point for a player that's been around as long as he's been, that you worry about that being able to like get him on the field. You know, I can love a player's skill set and I can still say, coaching staff might just never put him out there, you know, and
right.
He'll get chances to play, but he may just not be able to think the game at a fast enough level to play in the NFL. And that's a possibility. Like, you know, there's processing that has to happen at every position in terms of how you move in relationship to how the guy across from you moved. And a lot of time he just kind of does things. He's a bull in a china shop. You know, the play everybody highlights is the reverse that he blew up, or the end around or whatever that he blew up. Really, he's just running upfield as fast as he can. He didn't even see the wide receiver, and he hits the guy goes flying, the ball goes flying, and he's celebrating, but he never saw the guy. Like, he had no idea what he was doing. He did it by accident. Yeah. So that kind of lack of awareness, I mean, you know, it's sort of like a baseline characteristic of any player, but you need, you know, people will say instincts. So instincts aren't really a thing. They're, you know, it's how much you study, how much you do this or that. There's a lot of good players. I mean, I'll just pick one. Jared Davis was a player that did everything right. He studied his face off. He tested pretty well, like all that kind of stuff. He had the size. He just couldn't play in the league. Like, he just wasn't a good enough starter for the Lions, and he bounced around a little bit and was out, like, because he just didn't have instincts. Nothing came naturally to him. And again, some of the functional athleticism stuff. And he was an off-ball linebacker. I think it's less of an issue on these search and destroy type of defensive line positions, I would say, than it is at other positions. So I still like Stewart. I still have him in that late second, early third round grade window for me. I still would definitely take the chance. If he goes top 10, I think that's really ambitious. This class also, though, you know, like, how much are you really going to regret? Like, I don't think there's a million great players in this class. How much are you really
guys with first round grades? Maybe.
I'm not there yet.
It's certainly not a good draft class to be at the top, which sucks when you have pick 19 or pick 15 and you're like, well, usually I get somebody here with a first round grade. At this point, from pick 15 to pick, I'd even say early 70s, John, is like, there's not much drop off in talent. I mean, there's going to be some players who are talented than others, but I feel like you can get an impact player at one of these positions early in the third round that you can get early in the first round. And I don't see much of a difference in the draft. Of course, individual guys are going to stand out, have better, higher ceilings, you know, higher floors, whatnot. But I feel like you get good players throughout this draft, and teams who have, like the Bears, I think, are in a great position. 2 picks in the early part of the draft. They have pick number 10, and they're picking at 39 and 41. They have a really good opportunity to either maybe take those picks and move back in the first round and get another good player, or stay there and get 3 quality players. Because for me, especially at this edge position, I don't think the Bucs are going to be in on Pierce. I don't think they're going to be in on Mike Green. Those are 2 guys I definitely don't think. I don't think they're in a place where you want to wait around for a guy like Shamar Stewart to see if they can figure it out. Is it Ezeraku or bust in the first round for you? Or is there another edge rusher you could see them taking in the first round?
I don't think they'll take an edge in the first round. I'll go on the record saying that. Will surprise me if they take one. The exception would be if Jalen Walker's on the board, they will run the card.
Right. I don't expect him to be there.
I don't either. Yeah. If Jihad Campbell or Jalen Walker are on the board, the Bucs will run the card to the podium.
Campbell will be the pick if he's there. I'll put that out there now. I am 90% confident.
It's like the worst kept secret in media right now.
Right.
It's like normally how the Steelers pick is. Like, everybody knows it, no matter where they pick.
Someone just said Nick Amanawari. I am not in on Nick Amanawari.
No. I think you have to want to hit people to play football if you're a defensive player. I think that still matters. So yeah, I would be shocked if the Bucs are interested in him. But just to stick with the edge defender theme, I do think they'll like Ezeraku the most out of these guys that are like, I'm with you. Mike Green and James Pierce are not going to be of interest to this organization. I think Ezraku would be of interest to them for sure. Shaq Barrett's another maybe comp for Ezraku, especially if he is maybe not that explosive like that. Maybe that's another player that could win in a pretty similar way. So they could probably see some of that maybe and be interested in Ezraku. Not that they're looking for the Shaq Barrett template, but there might be enough reminders.
There's some short kings in this draft.
There are some short kings, yeah. And again,
there's a few of them. I'll get into them in a minute, but there are a few.
And he's got the long arms too. So I think the length that they look for is still there too. Now, I don't think they're going to take an edge maybe in the first round. I think this could very easily be a trade up draft for the Bucs. I think it could be a trade back draft for the Bucs. I think they really want to fill that linebacker spot. And if they feel like Campbell is better than a trade up, wouldn't shock me. I'm not saying I recommend it. The Bucs don't do it very often, but when they think there's somebody special and they think the rest of the class maybe isn't that special, we'll see. And I think it wouldn't be the most mind-blowing thing ever to me, especially if he's there at like 15 or 14 or something like that.
Right.
And they think that opportunity presents itself.
4th round draft pick will get it. And then he moved back in the 2nd, recoup that 4th in year 6. You didn't have it. Now you're gravy.
I think that's how they'll view it. So yeah, I don't think that those guys will be a fit. I would be surprised if edge happens early in the draft. A couple of reasons for that. I mean, I think Reddick is going to play. We know that Diaby is going to play and probably start. And you have to get Chris Braswell on the field as more than your 4th guy. And you re-sign Anthony Nelson. So I don't necessarily think that they have to not pick an edge. And if there was like a great player and it was their top, like I think maybe they would still do it. I would be fine with it. And I wouldn't be critical of them taking an edge. I'm just trying to look at it from their perspective. I think they're going to go another direction. I think they're more likely to go secondary or linebacker or move back or do something like that with one of these picks than they are to maybe go edge at this early in the draft. However, if they go edge, it will represent to me a pretty clear change in philosophy that we want to be 8 deep, 9 deep in terms of pass rushers. And we want to be able to cycle through people and we want to be able to drop our blitz rate astronomically this season. We want to change some of the things about our philosophy. Not that they still wouldn't get after people. They would. No. But they would just get after them way less. Like they would run. So that was what it would signify to me if they were willing to do that. I'm not sure what that would mean for Anthony Nelson, given that they re-signed him, but I think that they would say, hey, we're going to, one of these guys is going to be rush inside. Maybe it's Diaby. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And we're going to actually have like 4-man pass rush packages. And we don't care. Give us more. It's going to be more of a Eagles 49ers type of philosophy than it is traditionally Bucs. And
it's funny you said that because that's exactly what Jason Light said at the owners meeting. He's like, you're seeing the kind of the pattern of these things that come in waves. We saw it obviously with the Eagles and with the 49ers and Super Bowls and just having that loaded stockpile of not just edge rushers, but interior rushers as well, that you're just cycling in. He mentioned it to John Cooper, and I had to make a Stamkos joke with Trevor the other day because why not? But that could be the go-to. And I think I brought up, what about defensive tackle? And he mentioned if they do move back, like Kenneth Grant. I had a guy like Darius Alexander, someone who they've shown quite a bit of interest in. I know. But we'll get into that.
I don't see it. I don't get it.
Don't go off the rails yet. But I tend to agree. I think it's Ezraku or not. I think Jihad Campbell's there. Malachi Starks, after listening to your guys' breakdown, I kind of hesitate now more. But I think if they play him more at safety rather than nickel, like as you guys were mentioning, I think that looks better. But again, I still wouldn't be shocked if he was the guy there at 19. They do like him and think he can even play a little outside is what I've heard through the grapevine.
A corner, did you say?
Yeah.
What? No way. I said that on pod. I was like, man, I think teams should really think about Malachi Starks as a corner, but I haven't heard anybody say that. Yeah, so I was like, I don't even think this is on the table for teams.
No, you're on that. I've said that for like the last 3-4 weeks now, that they think he could play a little outside corner.
Interesting. So I think he's more corner than safety and watching him play, but anyway.
It gives you that versatility, right? To kind of use him elsewhere. Other than, I run out of prospects in the first round because unless they reach for some, and again, I don't think it'd be a reach because of the player pool, and we don't know. We're starting to catch up to teams' boards now, and we'll continue to start to catch up to some of these teams' boards. But when I look at edge rusher, I certainly just see Ezraku, and then in the second round, the third round, fourth round, I'm starting to see some guys that I think the Bucs would like and that I like. Some of those short kings like Femi Oladejo, a David Walker, Josiah Stewart.
Isn't Femi like 6'3"?
Femi? No, Femi's short.
How tall? How short is Femi?
I thought Femi was. I'm pretty sure Femi's short. Let me see.
I'm about to look it up. I was just
I'm
watching
I
Femi
know.
today.
I know. Maybe I'm getting my edge rushers confused. I've done a lot of them the last couple.
Maybe you're right. I honestly didn't remember. I just was watching him today. I didn't think of him as short. He's 6'3". He came in 6'3" at the combine.
He's 6'3". Oh yeah, 6'3".
6'3" is a short king. I'm a short king, brother. Like so.
Yeah. Well, come on. I mean, how Ezeraku's 6'2", 6'3"?
He's
like,
short.
Still,
yeah.
Was
Ezeraku even 6'2"? That's actually good for him if he's 6'2".
6'2". But again,
David Walker's your short king.
David Walker's 6'2", 6'1".
Did he come in at 6'1"?
No, he's 6'2". He came in at 6'2".
What?
Walker's 6'2". Josiah Stewart is a short king. He's only 6'1".
He is a king, though. That guy he will knock
he's
your
a
socks
player.
off.
But someone who you liked early on and you identified probably about a month and a half ago, and I had to dive in and take a look for myself, was Brady Swinson from LSU. Do you think he'd be someone they look at in the second round? What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I don't know about the Bucs and Braden Swinson. You know, I asked around. I was like, why is Braden Swinson not getting more hype? This guy's awesome. Like, I don't understand. And some people were like, yeah, I think he maybe butted head with the coaching staff a little bit there. Like there was sort of some of that, like that you kind of heard below the surface. But they're like, yeah, we don't think he's a bad kid or anything, but like just maybe it took him a while to pick things up there. And so you wonder a little bit more about the profile. The Bucs have not been a team. I think some team won't care at all. Like the Chiefs are a big example. Like they don't care. Like, you know,
like someone in the elevator. We'll bring it back.
Yeah, like they don't care. But the Bucs have really prioritized like the right type of person. Like there's no BS. There's no like they don't cut corners with it really at all. So I just for that reason that's why I hesitated on Mike Green, James Pierce. Like they're just not going to be the team that goes down.
I didn't hear about that about Swinson. So
yeah, it's just like it's very small stuff. It's nothing like on the level of Mike Green's deal or even James Pierce deal. Nothing like that. But it's just very small stuff that makes me maybe a little bit hesitation. Like is he their type of player? Like I think he has real potential as a run defender. He's not the most detail-oriented player overall, I think, and how he plays. I had a hard time. I watched his tape and I was so impressed, and I had a hard time reconciling how a guy that looked that impressive could have barely kind of played until last season. Now I know it happens. It's less and less. It's more and more common now in today's college football world with how many good players there are and also how much these guys move around, and especially a school like LSU that has lots of talent and stuff. Like I understand it. When you watch him play, he's a no plays off guy. Like one of the great hustle plays of the season was him running down Baylor's wide out short of the goal line on some sort of extended play where he was on the opposite side of the field.
Watson type stuff.
Yeah, he will do anything to get to the quarterback. I mean, he will try anything. He loses balance at times. Like it's not always pretty, but he has real burst out of his stance and real speed up the arc to be able to corner. I don't even think he's the bendiest guy ever, but he can really get to the edge. And then he's got all kinds of ways to get there too. Like he's got cross chops, he's got Euro chops, he does ghost moves and dips under contact. He's got a double swipe in there. Like his physicality and his violence. I mean, some of the best speed to power rushes in the class. The bag is just deep, JC. So I really enjoy his tape a ton. I found myself really impressed with him. There are like negative plays where he like tries a bunch of stuff, ends up on the ground. It didn't work out. Like those plays happen with him. He will, like Abdul Carter, honestly kind of lose his balance cornering sometimes and not be able to finish, but he has enough reps where he finishes where you know he can do it. And so I think it's the reps, it's a reps thing. And then some of the run defense stuff, like he can get blown up a little bit and knocked around. He also then crushes people sometimes and he's in unblocked situations. So I think it's just an awareness thing more than he's not physically strong. People are like, oh, how big is he going to be? How big is he going to be? I think that was a big question going into the combine. And then he was 250, right? 6'4", 250, I think.
6'4", 250. Yep.
I think he was even a couple pounds more at his pro day. So, I just think that there's not a lot of concerns with me about his size. This is how big they are these days. Like, you're not mashing as a 4i as a 5 all the time like you are in college ball at this position.
Someone that they have shown interest in, who feels like that second, probably closer to the third guy. And then I just want to ask you, like, who you like. I mentioned a few with Femi, David Walker, and Stewart, but is Princely human alien? He's just JTS 2.0, right? I mean, that's what I saw. I saw some things I liked. I saw some things that were just very similar in the way that kind of JTS played. What do you think of Princely? Because they haven't brought him in for 30. That's been reported, but they've had extensive conversations with him. Had a formal at the combine, and Justin, who does such a great job over at your old stomping grounds, one of the only good things left over there. He does this awesome interview series every year, and he had some good stuff to say about him that wasn't in the article. So, what's your thoughts on Princely?
Yeah, I mean,
and say his last name, so I know how to say it.
Uman Mielen is how you say his last name.
I just call him the alien.
Yeah, Uman Mielen. I mean, again, like you just go off what you hear, and it's like, yeah, is the guy always locked in? Do the coaches like, is he going to be a guy that brings it in every capacity? And I mean, you watch his tape, he takes some plays off. You know what I mean? Like he's that kind of guy. He coasts a little bit. He's got real talent when it comes to how he rushes the passer. I know that. His ability to corner for a guy who although he came in smaller than he's sort of got this Arden Key deal going on, right? Where it's like, what is his weight? And then he shows up and he's like way lighter at the combine. Arden Key what was he at the combine?
6'4", 255. I think we got his weight at
55. I think he's listed like closer to like 69 or something like that on his. I'll look and see what he was listed at. But I remember it was like what's he gonna, how much is this guy? He was 244 is what he was at the combine. Okay. 6'4", 244. He was listed 260. And so he came in weight 265, I think actually it was. So he came in over 20 pounds lighter than you expect him to be. And then he runs and he's not fast, right? And he's not particularly.
That's why you lose that weight, so you can run faster.
Yeah. So the testing really hurt for me. So I have to figure out, I'm actually finalizing my final edge ranking, should be posted on Audibles and Analytics. If I finish it this weekend, it'll be when I finish it. If not, it'll be Monday morning for sure at the latest. So that will be my plan. I kind of have to figure out, because on tape, I liked him more than Mykel Williams, Shamar Stewart, JT Tuimoloau, Landon Jackson. Like I liked him, James Pierce. I liked him more than those guys on tape. I think he has real savvy when it comes to rushing the passer. He just didn't test as well, even though he dropped weight. And so that part wasn't that impressive. It was pretty average in the agilities. Then you worry about the motivation, you hear about those kinds of things. Is he ever going to be a full-time player? So I think he's a more talented pass rusher right now than Williams, Stewart, Tuimoloau, Jackson, Pierce, Skirton. I think after the guys we've talked about basically so far, he would be the next best pass rusher in the class after those guys. But run defense stuff matters. Effort matters. How good of an athlete you are matters. He is a hard one to figure out on tape because there will be plays where he looks really athletic and you can see the bursts and you're like, oh man, like he can really move. And then there are plays where he's going through the motions where you don't notice as much and you start to question. And then the testing comes back and it's pretty average, I think at best, I would say, for his testing. So I would be surprised if there's a couple guys I would be surprised if the Bucs are interested. I said Mike Green. I think he's one of them. James Pierce for sure, one of them. Princely Uman Mielen would be another one. I think I would just be really surprised, and I'd be really surprised if Shamar Stewart was a guy that they were interested in. You can paint me a picture where Mykel Williams is somebody that interests them. You can paint me a picture where Tuimoloau is somebody that's of interest to them, or Landon Jackson is, maybe not their normal type, but could be somebody they're interested in. I don't know if Nick Scorton is athletic enough to be of interest to them, but sure. All those guys, I see at least a world in which that exists, but I would just be really surprised if that's the case with Princely, with Mike Green, or with James Pierce.
Right. And I misspoke too. I meant the other guy's name, who you just said, JT from Ohio State. He's the guy who reminds me of JTS. And it's funny that his first name is JT. When you look at him, I just see a lot of JTS on there, which isn't bad.
I see some JTS. He's got way better power. That's the big difference. Yeah. So that was where I started to see the distinction as I watched more and more. I thought, I think he's got enough where he can actually that can be a card for him, where it's just not even a card for JTS to be able to play at the NFL level. But Tuimoloau, super high character, super great effort, really good run defender, pretty aware player. I mean,
drops into coverage well.
He drops a little bit, even compared to like the other Ohio State edge is just not an NFL player, in my opinion.
Jack Sawyer no.
People are always trying to ask which one of those guys is better. That's always a conversational topic. They don't even belong on the same planet as players. And Tuimoloau, I think, just does a lot of things really well. I don't know what is like, is he going to be a good enough pass rusher in any way to be able to hang his hat on that? I think he's a more instinctive player in how he moves than JTS, even though their builds are fairly similar and the ways that they win, as run defenders and as space players are pretty similar. The flexibility they give you, the fact they can be a part of really, I think, pressure heavy fronts and fronts that like to twist and do all that kind of stuff. They can be a part of the team pass rush concept at a high level. So in those ways, I think they're similar. But Tuimoloau having more power and strength gives me a little bit more hope that he could be a little bit more of a physical dominator than JTS was in college, which, so gives me some hope. And I would think of him as sort of like in that late round 2, early round 3, mid round 3, maybe a little more.
84. He could be there at 84. There's a chance he could be there at 84.
That would surprise me a little bit, but maybe it's not crazy. I mean, this is a deep edge group, and if some of these guys that you're just not expecting to go, like Femi Oladejo, if he goes high, it's just like, somebody gets bumped, right? If some of those things happen, then some
running backs start to move up. Jackson Dart gets picked, and people panic and pick up, Milrow earlier than starts to push players back. I do want to, before we jump in, because we'll bang out a live mock real quick on the PFF. I want to ask you, I mentioned some of their names. What other edge rushers do you see in that day 2, maybe even day 3 area that have intrigued you that you think would be good fits for what the Buccaneers look for and what they do?
Oh, good question. Good fits. So I named most of my top guys and said Swinson. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anybody else I'm crazy about. I like Josiah Stewart, probably. He'll maybe go somewhere day 2. Now, he's small, but he packs such a punch. I'm not sure. Like, this was the thing with Josh Uche, too, though. Like, his college tape was awesome. He's smaller, Michigan, same school. As I was just like, I think he's good, man. I don't care. And when I watch him in the NFL, I still think he's good, but he just doesn't play. And so you have to be able to play. Like, Josiah Stewart, I really like him. Will he actually get on the field and play? Like, people just don't talk about him. People watch the college tape and it's awesome. And he's small and they don't know what to do with him. Like, what are we going to do? He just played at Michigan. This isn't like, no offense, David Walker, but Central Arkansas or some one of these smaller places. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, this guy coming from small school, like there's a lot of reason. This guy played at Michigan and he ran through people's chests for a living. And it was just like, pretty freaking good. Like, it looks pretty freaking good. And but he's 6'1", 249. And so I think he has 31 7/8 arms. And so people are sort of like, he was at Coastal Carolina for a couple of years, but I don't know, man, when you watch him, you just don't see physical deficiencies. Like the guys he gets comped to, he plays way more physical than those guys. So he is sort of an outlier in his play style for the size that he is, but I think he's also pretty good athlete. And so I think he's a really interesting player. I have no idea if he'd be a fit for the Bucs. He is a very different type than what the Bucs have gone for. So I don't know that I'd say he's a fit, but he's probably the only guy I'd say I'd love as a rusher. These other guys are more developmental. Like Femi would fit the Bucs in a lot of ways in that he works his tail off and he loves football and high effort and physical, but he's a developmental player in my opinion, more than Diaby even was. Like Diaby, I still think is developmental in terms of pass rush skill. Oladejo has that type of development needed, and then also just general awareness and instincts. I can't believe these conversations of him going in the first round. And he's a guy I watched, and I was like, oh, like this guy's excited. Like he could be a developmental player I'd love in the mid rounds. First round, like that's insanity. Like you can't rush the passer right now. So that's the most value this position gives you. So I would say like other guys like that, Jordan Birch, you get into those kind of conversations. It's like, oh, these guys are going to be more developmental.
To me, I think so. I think Birch is more of a 5-tech to me than a true
5-tech's not. It is a position in that you align there, but
it's not. No one's in base. I understand that, but
you're going to play 3. You're going to play edge. You're going to play inside. You're just an inside or outside player basically to me. And he might be an inside player. He came in 279. He really moved. Always the last guy off the ball. Like that's just a problem. Like you have to be faster off the ball. And even when he lines as an inside technique, you're right over the ball, brother. Like, and he still lasts off the ball a lot of the time. And so he is the hardest player to figure out of the group because I don't know what position he is. He plays inside and outside. He rushes more outside at Oregon. He plays inside someone early downs. He holds his own. Leverage and athleticism are good, but functional to his position at his size, like he's just a very interesting player. There's not enough production there's not enough high end plays. People say he didn't always play hard. I watch him on tape. I think he always plays hard. I just don't think he always got production. And so what does he become in the NFL? He is probably the hardest guy to figure out in turn. Like you would just bet against it at this point, because I think he's like 23. So you'd bet it against it at this point. It's probably the odds are that it doesn't happen, but it's hard to find reasons on his tape. Whereas like with Stewart, it's like, yeah, I don't think he even knows what he's doing. Like that would hold him back. But I don't see that with Birch. I don't know why he wasn't a more productive player in college. It's very strange.
I like Stewart. I had him in my last mock. I had David Walker. Before that, I had Femi Oladejo, and then in my Bucs mock offseason, I had Donovan Ezaraku. Those are the four that I'm really impressed with. I do like Swinson. He'll be in my next mock coming out. But with Stewart, I wrote exactly pretty much what you said. He wins with strength and aggression, dynamic first step. He's an explosive athlete, quick processor, plays with natural leverage because he's 6'1". He's got a tireless motor that will see him make plays down the field and terrorize quarterbacks in the backfield. Experience dropping into coverage as well. But besides size concerns, he'll need to develop a better pass rush plan and can run himself out of plays by being too aggressive. But 8.5 sacks, 20 hurries, 13 for a loss. That's some production, especially at a school like Michigan.
Yeah, he's just a really fun. He's one of these players that's like, is he just going to always be like a really awesome, fun college player, or does he actually have an NFL future? Those guys are sometimes hard to project well to the next level. A lot of the time they don't end up working out as NFL players, unfortunately. But he's probably one of the guys we haven't mentioned so far that as a pure pass rusher, I'd be more interested in.
All right, let's jump to some of these comments because we do have some comments, and then we'll jump into the mock draft. I got it ready, so we'll load that in. Tobias says, do you guys think the Bucs can only free up cap space, or only freeing up cap space for rookie picks, or do you think they eventually bring in another free agent? Lawrence Lowe kind of echoes that. Do you think the signings for Winfield, Baker, and Tristan help us try to grab another free agent? Free agency's done, guys. If they miss on a safety, there's a ton of good safeties or decent safeties still available. But this is simply for flexibility. This is for the draft picks. This is for operating costs during the season. And maybe we see an extension for a guy like Gedeke or Zion. I don't think this is to make a trade for a big player. I don't even think we've heard about anyone kind of being on the market as far as it could help the Bucs that could get traded or would be a good fit. I think it's just simply for extensions and operating costs.
Is anybody talking about the Bucs taking Jahdae Barron?
Yeah, some people are. I actually had him in my second mock. I have him in this mock coming up. Jahdae Barron's my first pick. I think Braden Swinson's my second pick. So little teaser for you guys watching. I've got everything.
Yeah, you're giving away all the secrets here, bro. You're like our boy Greg Auman when he tweets out people's mocks. He's like, these are all the players the Bucs took in this mock. Like in his quote tweet, I'm always like, Greg, you're taking this person's clicks.
Let them click. But yeah, I mean, I do like him. I think people are talking about him. I don't think people think
why isn't he the most like why isn't he like exactly what the Bucs like super high character, super zone heavy player.
Like, super smart. I think
he's gonna be. You think it's 19? I mean, he's not a big player. I think there's at least there's a better chance he's there than the guys like Campbell and Walker, who you always hear people talk about the Bucs will take. Yeah, they'll take him, but again, they could trade up. But I think Barron's probably going to be there. Like, is he going to be taken as the second corner in the class? He could play inside, he could play outside. He's experienced playing both. He hits people in the run game. He's a constant communicator. He plays the ball in the air all the time. The Bucs are all about that. He's one of the most high character players in the class. Yeah,
I think it depends where Will Johnson goes. If Will Johnson goes early, then I think Barron becomes
those guys are so health dependent, and maybe that's the reason. Like the corners are all Ravel, Johnson, like or the Notre Dame guy. Like they're all like so health. So there's a question, but I have no idea why people aren't like. To me, Barron is clearly the player the Bucs should pick. I mean, I would be fine with other picks, but like if Walker and Campbell off the board as we expect them to be. I mean, people watch Barron State. Like this guy is absolutely if they're going to move Tyke Smith to safety, which it seems like is their preference or they think is more likely, I would keep him at nickel unless you can get a guy like this at nickel. And then I'm like, okay, now I get it. Right. I just think the guy is dynamite. He can play outside too. He'd play outside and be completely fine. So there are just so many configurations of what he gives you. He is some of the best zone eyes in the class. They're looking for ball skills so bad. This guy makes tons of plays on the ball.
That's all he does.
He's only bit shorter arms, and so they wouldn't peg him as an outside guy, but watch him go hit Cam Scatterboot on the second play of the game or whatever. Like he'll take the guy on in the hole like by himself. Like I just think he's such a good player, and I think he's clearly the pick that the Bucs should make if he's on the board.
A couple shout outs. Always a treat to listen to John and JC dropping some football knowledge. And John, spelled your name wrong. The man is in the building.
Spelled your name wrong.
It's all good. Siobhan Revel. I like Revel a lot too, but I like Revel on a trade back, not at 19. Shane, let's pull up the mock draft because we're up against it here. So let's run through this. We'll get, obviously, we just kind of heard who you're kind of rooting for here at 19. Is he your number one guy for the Bucs? If you had to, would he be the guy?
I think
out of Walker, Campbell, Ezraku, Barron, Johnson. If Will Johnson's there.
I love Walker. I actually have to scout the other. We're doing corners. Ollie and I are doing corners next week. We'll have detailed pods on corners next week, dropping over on Audibles and Analytics. So it will be my focus, is figuring out of those other outside guys. But I watched Barron already, and I've watched Hunter, obviously. And so, yeah, I think of guys that I feel are most realistic. I would probably favor Barron over Campbell. I know the linebacker is a huge need. I agree with that. I just am not. I'm way less sure than I think other people seem to be that Campbell is the answer to everything that the Bucs need. But I think Barron would be my top choice. Yeah.
And Barron went here top 10, 8th to Carolina.
We'll see. I mean, a lot is off Trevor's board. Trevor agrees with me that Barron's awesome. The league doesn't typically take players like that high.
Right.
How high did Brian Branch go?
We're on public rankings.
Yep. And Brian Branch was a second round pick, right? And so I mean, he was Bama, big screen.
Brian Branch was second. Antoine was second, and then
Barron will go higher, but because this draft and because his he played outside this past year and was one of the best corners in all of college football. And I know people saying he's not big enough to be an outside starter. I see David's comment there, and I'm not saying that he will be an outside starter, and I'm not saying that they can't get an outside corner later in the class. I just, from what I know right now, there's 3 of the top guys have major injury questions.
Right.
So are the Bucs going to go there? I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe that will happen. I'm not sure. And Hunter will be off the board. So to me, Barron's as good as anybody else that's left after that, or better. And he played outside corner Texas at a super high level. And I just wonder at some point of the Bucs willing to say, you know what, we've been drafting these big prototypes, but at the end of the day, we're not getting the type of production we want. And I know he's smaller than some of the other guys they've taken. I don't even think he'd be an outside corner. I honestly think that they feel like they can address that in other ways, and later in the draft perhaps would be one of those ways. Just not sure the first round will be where they target. But this type of player, I don't think people understand. This type of player is one of the most important player types in today's NFL, because you do everything. You are a little bit of a linebacker. You are a little bit of a safety. You are a zone defender. You have to match up in man in certain situations. You have to be able to switch in goal line situations, in situations where you're working against a stack. You have to be able to play with physicality. You have to be able to communicate at a high level at this position. You have to be able to blitz. He does that. There's just not a lot of guys who can do that. Oh, by the way, they were one of the best outside corners in college football, playing against the best of the best every single week. All the time. The schedule's full of high quality matchups, and made a ton of plays on the ball. I don't know. Just seems to me I don't think he's getting talked about enough as one of the best players in the class.
Well, next week he'll be in my mock. You guys heard it here first, because that was the way I was going. So we'll break down Barron a little bit more. What?
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But he's off the board at 8. I mean, this is probably worst case scenario for the Bucs. Jahdae Barron's off the board at 8. Jihad Campbell off the board at 11. Ezraku's gone at 14. And then you see Will Johnson, Jalen Walker go right in front of you. Mike Green, again, I don't think they're in on him. Even Tet McMillan at 13, I think they would pause for a second there. They've talked about wide receiver an awfully lot for it to just be a smoke screen in this class. I do think they come out of this draft with a wide receiver. Problem is, to me, is after the 3rd round, I don't see anyone I love. 4th round, maybe. I think 4th round, I don't see anyone I love. And even those 4th, 3rd round guys are, what are they?
You talking about wide
better? Yeah. Are they better than what you have on the roster now? And it's a toss up.
There's 7 guys I'm interested in this class, and I think a lot of the other guys are getting way overhyped because people need to talk about a wideout. Those guys could have real potential, but there's a lot of character questions at the top and then a lot of talent questions later on. So
they all came out last year. All right, so we're on the board here at pick 19. Malachi Starks is there. And this range, given who else is everyone there, can you see the board, John?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
And everyone else here, I know you might make a play for Colston Loveland here. I know you're high on him. I don't love anyone else but Malachi Starks. We could explore a trade back. We got the Commanders.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, they'd probably trade back here for our purposes. I mean, if it's up to you, but we don't need to do
whatever
that.
You want to do.
Let's see who's on the board at edge, and let's see who's on the board at linebacker, and let's see who's on the board at corner and safety.
Okay, let's see. We got corner.
Because I'm trying to be realistic too. I would 100% be interested in Loveland. I'd be all about it. I'm trying to be realistic. They're going to draft defense. So it's just. I just would be surprised. I think if Starks is the first round pick, Pierce won't be. Gordon won't be.
I love Xavier Watts, but not at 19. But I love Xavier Watts.
He's my top safety. I like him a lot too. Yeah, this looks like pretty. I mean, I have to watch Harrison and Revel. I've heard things, but I haven't watched them yet. So this would seem like a trade down situation to me. If you couldn't trade down,
we got three offers. We've got the Rams, we got the Commanders, we got the Bengals. Bengals are out of it for me. Rams in Washington, probably pick up an extra third round pick. Maybe
or take one of those corners. I mean, like again, I said I don't have I'll watch them this weekend probably and get like a stronger opinion on them. But
I think we can.
If you don't want to go through the whole.
Still get a corner. Let's try to move back here with the. Let's go for the earlier one and a sixth.
Okay.
I think this will be accepted. And we did. So we pick up an extra third. We pick up a sixth that we didn't have. We move back 5 spots, 6 spots, 7 spots. And really still the same thing.
Now we draft Colston Loveland.
Now he's okay. Colston Loveland, tight end. I already did it.
All right, we're doing it. Should I talk about Colston Loveland? They're not going to actually do this, but I think he's the best tight end in the class. Super pro ready. He is a better blocker than Tyler Warren. I don't know where along the line. Someone tweeted out one time 3 highlight blocks of Tyler Warren's that are frankly not very pro, he does not doing pro tight end stuff on these blocking plays, and people are like, oh my gosh, he's a great blocker. This whole misperception about him. Watch his tape. He's not a very good blocker. They don't even ask him to block very much. He doesn't even play in line that much as a traditional blocker for them. He's on the field. He's getting the ball usually. So, he's way behind technically and mentally from a blocking perspective, and he's a little bit older. Loveland, way better technically and mentally as a blocker, doesn't have the mass of Warren for sure. His technique's better though, so I think he actually gets better results. There's times in which it doesn't work out for him. That's literally every tight end in the league. But you're seeing the right things from a process standpoint with Loveland. And then he's probably one of the best route runners in terms of separation. Unbelievable. To sink your hips at his size and accelerate out of the break. Unbelievable stuff. There's just a lot of really exciting things about Loveland's game. Field stretcher. I think he's one of the fastest tight ends. He's big enough too. I just think he really – I think he's one of the best players in the class, to be honest. I don't have a lot of first round grades, and I'll have one on him.
Yeah, and I think, listen, we just saw, and I talked about it at the top of the show, right? And some people have checked out. They're like, I'm not watching this. Love close tight end in the first round. But if you think about it, John.
Obviously, they're not going to do this. They have
met with a bunch of tight ends. They have met with a bunch of tight ends. So I don't know, but maybe let's open up the scenario, right? Trey McBride just got $19 million. Are you comfortable paying K-Dot $14 to $15 million?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's likely going to cost you.
Yeah.
Or do you invest in the position with a guy who he's not going to be the blocker. He's not going to be the inline guy. He's a beast in blocking on sweeps and when he's asked to do so when he's out in the slot and stuff like that. But he can play slot. He can play X. You can play H back and put him in the backfield if you want to. He can do a lot of things for you.
It's a value proposition, right? I mean, they're not going to take all. I would be shocked, but they're taking a defensive player. But in general, this is a value proposition, and I know people are like, "Oh, pick a defensive player," but the reality is that if there aren't any good, if there aren't players worth this pick in the draft, and you trade down, and that's still the case, well, you've added picks down to continue to take bites at the apple. But let's see who's on the board at corner here.
All right, at corner. Well, we have some linebacker options right off the bat with Demetrius Knight and Carson Schlinger.
Yeah, I mean, linebackers will be another position I'm still gonna watch. I'm
got some
really
good
interested in
corners
Schlesinger
here.
for sure. I mean, Benjamin Morrison being here just doesn't seem realistic to me, but I mean, it seems like it'd be an obvious pick unless that hip is just so bad. If he's here, it's because his hip is just so bad, right? Like, there's no way he's
Right. Well, I mean, that's
he's
the
a
thing.
Bucs type for sure.
I mean, let's go Benjamin Morrison then, unless you want to look at linebacker now, or we can look at linebacker next round.
Yeah, I mean, I think Schlesinger might be good, but I haven't really watched the linebackers to study. Linebacker, corner, and some of the offensive linemen are the only guys left I have in the class, really.
Okay, I think we can still get a linebacker next round. I think Benjamin. I like Darian Porter a lot too.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I just don't know if the Bucs, he's size wise fits what they do, but he's a converted offensive, like he's a converted. I think there's still the like, oh, will he hit people questions that some people have, and so yeah, I mean, Porter's also barely played. He doesn't strike me as their prototype. So, I mean, Morrison, yes, the pedigree, the program, that secondary that he was a part of, the defense he was a part of, one of the best groups in all college football. So, yeah, I mean, to get he might. It's a lot of people's mind. He's a first round caliber player. To get him at the end of the second is just like robbery, I think.
Right.
Yeah, like Kevin Winston's here. Like this, I don't
like
Kevin
Winston.
Again, we're taking another injured guy, maybe, but. Kevin Winston at 84 would be perfect fit next to Winfield. I mean, he just hammers people. He's so physical. He's a bigger Jordan Whitehead in terms of the way that he plays, but I think he's got way more upside. He only played 694 college snaps. So, we're not solving the linebacker issue. I love Makuba. He's probably not going to be a Bucs pick. Just two small safeties would be tough.
Small, but I love his game.
Yeah. Winston's 6'1", 215. Yeah, I mean, if Kevin Winston's here, who are the linebackers that are here?
Bassa, and Carter, and Kaiser.
Maybe
we have
Carter
another pick coming up. So we did trade back, so we do have another pick coming up.
I mean, I would take Winston here just because Winston wouldn't actually. I don't think. Well, maybe he will be here. I mean, who knows? Safety's weird, and I mean, but this is a heck of a draft from a talent perspective.
I mean, we got Colson Loveland, we got Benjamin Morrison,
we got the best tight end. We got a corner that was going top 10 before he hurt his hip. Maybe he's still injured, but Winston was going higher. Was be a top knee. I guess injury concerns are out there for us, but let's see. I mean, linebackers really the position I feel like we want to look at, but we should keep an eye on that. I mean, the edge D-line class is obviously important to.
Yeah, let's look at interior defensive linemen. Let's look at edge rushers, and let's look at linebackers. Again, Jalen Noel is the guy they had a formal or who they're bringing in for a visit, the wide receiver out of Iowa State. But if we're going Colson Loveland in the first, we ain't drafting a wide receiver until like round 7.
Noel's like the same player as Trey Palmer in like every way.
Right. I think just a little bit more polished route runner.
I don't even know if I'd feel that way about Noel. Like I know some people do though, so maybe they're right. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Nothing at linebacker. Bassa is the best option. Bassa to me, like when I've seen of him, I just struggle. I don't know that he tackles that well. Carter will probably be gone at this point, just based on what I've heard. But people really like him as a person, and that usually drives the.
I mean, he was a high second round pick if he was coming out yesterday. He decided to come back, and now he's got a 4th round grade on him from here at PFF. There's a
Kobe
chance.
King's really interested in me too.
Who is?
Kobe King, Penn State linebacker.
Yeah. He's definitely be there a little bit later. If you want to go edge rusher, I think Femi's a good choice here.
I think he could be, but I mean, to me, if this is the way we're just going to treat the board as the board, I think
we're treating the board as the board at this point.
Yeah.
We were close to Loveland first round shot, John.
and Derek Carter ran a 4.6, right? Like, I mean, I think he'd be a lot of what they want. I would think of him as a perfectly solid pick. I mean, at 90, I think that's a great pick.
Derek Carter?
I haven't scouted him yet, but just based on what I've heard other people say about him and watching him move. I mean, I've watched him over the years live.
I just think we could get him in the 4th.
What do we have? 121?
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's usually been there.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Femi is a developmental edge that would just – I don't know that – again, I'm not sure that they're as into edge as maybe you think they might be.
The way Jason sounded at the combine, he made it seem like they were going to come out with an edge in the first 2 days of this draft.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah.
It's
You want to take
that's
Femi?
kind of
Take him.
how it sounds. I mean, I might just be misreading the quote. I don't know, but for me, it sounded. Let me find it. I'm right here. Give me a second. Edge rusher. Where does he talk about an edge rusher?
Are you looking at Jason Light comments?
Yeah, his quote. I got his thing right
I mean,
here.
should we think about? I mean, if Jamari Caldwell is here, I would be ecstatic about that pick. I think he's really good, and Vea has had some injury stuff. What's that?
I think they could go defensive tackle too. I mean, I think that's another. Okay, so he goes on signing. Reddick changes the mindset about the team potentially drafting an edge rusher. I don't know if it changes the mindset there. We've got a few players, a handful of players like we do every year that we think could be there at pick 19, including edge rushers. I think are going to stick to what's the best player, and if it happens to be an edge, it's an edge rusher. That's not the right one. He did mention like it's a deep position, and there's guys that we like on day 1 and day 2 of the draft. And I think that's why I was like, okay, if it's not Ezeraku in round 1, like who is in that next tier? And that's what led me to Swinson and look at some of these other guys a little bit closer who are second and third rounders, because I knew like offensive line, outside of
Winston's off the board, right?
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
All right. Who did you say? Who are the people saying?
I don't know.
David's like, dude hasn't scouted anybody. Yeah,
Femi, from a demeanor standpoint, fits the Bucs for sure. He's extremely physical. He has no idea what he's doing as a pass rusher at all right now. But he'd be like a developmental player for the Bucs, I think. Which is probably,
Femi is
part of the battle right now, I'd say.
And I think it'd be good for him too to learn behind a guy like
Diaby.
No, because of his size, I think like Reddick, he's a little bit more size profiles, a little bit more like
Femi is like 260 something, brother. Femi's
I'm getting all these edges mixed.
You're getting them all mixed up. Femi's big dog. Yeah, he's like 6'3", 263. He's thick.
6'3", 250. Yeah,
he looks very similar to Diaby physically, I would say.
What did I write about Femi?
Okay, so now are we looking at linebackers now? Carter off the board? Or we still?
Yeah, Carter looks like he's still on the board. Okay. Let's bring up linebacker.
What's our linebacker situation? This is part of the struggle, is that I don't think it's a great linebacker class, and they need 2. I mean,
Carter's there. Carter's still there.
One. Yeah, I mean, Carter would be.
You want to go Carter?
At this point. Yeah, I think so.
Perfect.
I'm really interested to get down the board with some of these guys, though. I mean, you hear good things about Cody Lindenberg, for example, the Minnesota guy, like just in terms of his makeup. And this has been a position that's interesting. People are going to freak out about linebacker, and the Bucs may not draft one early, and you shouldn't force it at this position. It's been a position that's been able to get productive players in later rounds. I think a lot of the time you don't have to necessarily swing for the fences at this position. Now, having said that, in this specific defense for Tampa Bay, it is a very important position to have a lot of really key traits. You're moving forward and backward a ton in this defense. So you have to have speed. You have to have athletic ability. That's really important. So they can't plug and play guys in their system the way Philly could, for example, in a lot of ways. The Colts over the years, the Bengals over the years. Like some of those defenses could plug guys in and have them do things because they didn't ask as much of their linebackers. Tampa Bay's, you're twisting, you're moving, you're you're dropping in coverage, you're covering the flat, you're all those sorts of things. So there's not man coverage responsibilities maybe that often. I mean, Levante's had some over the years, but it's a lot of other stuff. So it's a tricky position to evaluate for the Bucs because a lot of things do matter that for other systems, you're like, just slap in some 5th rounder. The Bucs actually do have to value it a little bit more in their system, I think.
Right, I agree.
All right, so what about the Ryan? Let's take.
All right, so I just highlighted cornerback, defensive line, linebacker. We got Quincy Riley, Kobe King still here, and I think those are really the only guys.
Denzel Burke is still here. The Ohio State corner. I know his stock's fallen a little bit, but I don't think it's fallen that far.
Where's the
Smail
corner?
London's probably going to go like he's still on the board here, by the way. He's probably going to go
Who
like
is?
in the top 60 for sure, I would say. The
Who?
Georgia linebacker.
Georgia
If you
linebacker.
scroll down some, you'll see him. Just in the linebacker.
Samuel Mondon.
Yes, he's gonna go high. So I mean, you could take him here, but he's not going to be on the board here unless he kills somebody or something.
So talk to me about that, because I've seen him drafted in some mocks and stuff like that in the late round. Obviously, he's given pretty much a 7th round. What is it about him that maybe people are late on, or they're just not?
Unless it's a character thing, which like Georgia, I don't know. Like you read the McGinn piece today, and you're like, maybe there's a character reason that he falls, but like the NFL people just think really highly of him. Like he can move, he can cover. They think highly of the profile, I think, and just the athletic ability. They thought he was a better. I think he's a better pure linebacker right now than Jalen Walker is. I don't think very much of Walker as a linebacker. So yeah, I think just a lot of the traits you're looking for day 2 at this position, I think, are things that he has. So I think he's going to go sometime day 2. I definitely don't think he'll be on the board at this point, but if he was, Georgia, the Bucs, like he's definitely the type of player they'd look for. Now, I don't know about the character stuff. That's, but we're not really concerned about that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, right. Not for this exercise. I like Quincy Riley a lot.
Slot only guy, right? Really struggles to tackle though. Really struggles to tackle. I don't know.
And that's something that the Bucs, I don't know how about.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's physical. I just think he really does struggle to actually tackle. I know Ollie likes longer beam, Robert Longer Beam.
Yeah.
Oh, like Kyle Williams is still here. Like he would be awesome.
I don't. Yeah, I just don't think
these things are always so hard for me because I'm like, oh, that's not gonna
happen. I feel the same sometimes. I'm like, well, let's go. I try to mess around with it, and then I end up getting Cam Ward not drafted until the 2nd round. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
where do you want to go here?
I mean, I would probably take Munden if he's here in the real draft. I mean, I don't think he's gonna be here. Like I said, you could look and see what the other corner safety options are too. Like I'm really interested in a safety. I don't really think much of the safeties in the class.
We got Kevin Winston already.
Oh yeah, we got Winston. That's right. Nickel, then I guess it would be like maybe a nickel type of player would be something that I would, because depending on where Winston's at with his health, and I don't think you can ever have enough in the secondary after what the Bucs have been through. So last year, where it just derailed their season. I mean, like Burke would be, but I'm not taking him because I don't think he's actually going to be here. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know a ton about a lot of these guys now at this point. Like I said, Longer Beam's an interesting one. I'd have to see more names there, but yeah, I mean, I think we could go with linebacker here.
All right, let's do Munden then. Double up on that linebacker position.
Yeah, I mean, Munden is fit from a prototype standpoint, certainly a lot of what the Bucs are.
Yeah, when you look at exactly what PFF, whoever wrote this said, if Munden's mental speed can catch up to his physical speed, he can be a starting caliber linebacker. Until that happens, he projects as an impact special teamer who can play on a rotation. And they still need that too, an impact special teamer.
Sounds like Dennis, right?
Man, you're lower on Dennis than I am. I think Dennis is going to be pretty dang good.
Well, I mean, that profile sounds like when they thought when they drafted Dennis, like smaller player who needs to think the game, really athletic and can play special teams.
Well, the thing about Dennis too is like when he came out, everyone. I mean, what was the last thing last year? Oh man, they sucked in coverage. Oh, they're so bad in coverage. They really needed Dennis. And then like when he came out, everyone's like, can he play coverage? Is he a coverage guy? Because like he had 7 sacks a senior year playing with Clyde Jacansey. A lot of people are like, wait, what's going on? Yeah. All right, let's fly through these last 2 picks here.
Yeah, I mean, Ransaw again being here is crazy. Like he's a talented player. He's like a bigger nickel type of player, but so I would think of him maybe as a guy who will go higher. Thornton is like an interesting one as the type of wide receiver. Like they're obviously going to prioritize speed. He's really fast, and so if they take a wide receiver later, he could be a guy. So he was still on the board. Dante Thornton from Tennessee. He could be an option. I don't think they'll go running back at all, right? We don't have to worry about
tackle. That. Let's look at anything here. Defensive tackle. I had them taking
Ty Robinson is going to go higher than this, I would guess, in real life, but this is an absolute unbelievable steal if he's here. He's a really good athlete and he plays really physical. He's on the ground some, but Like it's a good freaking good player for.
It's a
whatever
Jason
we're
Light
about to
pick.
do.
He's from Nebraska. We got him.
Yeah.
You know who else was from Nebraska that turned out to be a really good player for the Bucs that once he came here finally? And I'm Gasu.
Oh yeah, true.
There.
I didn't think that's
Bucs
the direction you were going.
You didn't draft him, had nothing to do with it, but he was a good player for the Bucs.
That's true.
All right. So let's.
All right. This is our last pick.
This is our last pick here.
Afton Chisholm. He's like a tiny
What
little
did you just say to me?
receiver. Tiny little slot receiver. Real good route runner.
I love how you don't know like round 4 guys, but you know who the hell Afton Chisholm III is from Eastern Washington.
Yeah, you just go position because I'm just scouting position by position. I know who they all are. I know what other people say about them. But I'm not repeating other people's opinions. I'm waiting till I watch them to have my own opinion. So I scout my position. So I got 3 position groups left. Keep going. I mean, Medrano gets some hype, certainly from people as a guy who could be a developmental linebacker. Do we already take 2 linebackers? I don't remember.
Yeah, we took 2. We've got Colson Loveland, Benjamin Morrison.
Take a quarterback. Take a quarterback for the clicks.
Take a quarterback for the clicks. Got it.
Take Curtis Rourke. Take Graham Mertz, baby. Let's get another Florida guy in
quarterback.
Seth Hennigan, I honestly thought I was being pranked when he threw at the combine. I was like, this can't be real.
Well, why would I take that? I haven't looked at quarterbacks at all.
I mean, obviously these guys suck. So,
all right, I haven't looked.
Rourke is moxie though. Rourke has moxie. Take him.
Rourke, Curtis Rourke. You heard that, Shane. Bucs select quarterback in mock draft with Jon Ledyard.
When Kyle Trask goes to be the Steelers, Rourke can sub in as the number 2.
All right, let's go. Grade our draft. Come on.
It's gonna be like what's higher than an A+?
An A++. Sorry, as long as you get higher than a B, you did better than Trevor. So, but with a Colson Loveland, I don't know if we're gonna get it.
What do we get?
We got C, C+, A-, C, B+, 2 Fs, and an A+. We got a B. Got a B.
A+ for Rourke. An F for Ty Robinson in the 6th round is hilarious. Munden and Robinson, I guarantee will not be there at 157, 190 unless it's character related. Like that is nuts. Those would be Fs.
Shane, screen grab that for me if you can, so we can post that up there. Yeah. Good mock though. It's fun little simulator there.
I mean, that's a heck of a draft, brother. I don't know if all that's realistic, but hey, I feel pretty good. Yeah, and also we somehow filled all our needs and got the best tight end in the draft.
What more can you ask for? Just ignored the chat the whole time. They're like, take this guy. I was like, no.
I do. Chris Culver mentions Chris Paul Jr. I do like Chris Paul Jr. from a profile standpoint, but I don't know about the Bucs thing. I don't know where he goes. Like he's real sharp, but he's really short arms. And the one thing that's frustrating, he's always in position to make plays, but then he just missed he just missed plays a lot of time. I'm like, finish. Like you're right there. Like you did all the hard stuff and he just couldn't. And sometimes I wonder if that's something a player can get right, but I love Kyle Williams too. Donald mentions Kyle Williams. I don't know if they'll take a while. I think Kyle Williams is going to be a day 2 pick. I don't understand why he doesn't get more hype. He's exactly the type of player that usually gets overhyped this time of year, and instead nobody talks about him. I think
Jalen Royals is another one too that doesn't get a lot of love, but he's pretty good.
He's an interesting player, isn't he? Like he's kind of a yak guy from a smaller school that doesn't have amazing size or athleticism. It's like, in college you wanted to get him the ball. In college you wanted to get him the ball all the time because you played for Utah State. But in the NFL,
do that at the next level, right?
If a team doesn't want to give you the ball all the time, like, are you still going to be able to win? When are you still going to be able to match?
And that's why he's like 3rd round projected instead of second or.
I think I have him early day 3 type of. But some people like him way more than me for
3rd, 4th, right there.
Yeah.
All right, John, I appreciate, man. Everyone, giving everyone the knowledge of the pillars of pass rush in the beginning, kind of pointing out what you think the Bucs. What you would like the Bucs to do, what you think they should do. Did a fun little mock. It's always a blast to have you on. I appreciate you guys. Again, Audibles and Analytics. I'll let him tell where you can find him, all this stuff, because it's just great. Just don't talk Suns basketball with him or you'll put him in a deep depression. He's not doing so well right now. Kevin Durant's still out.
That's very true. Yeah. I actually checked out. I
haven't seen a post for a while. I'm like, he just gave up this season.
Yeah. I gave it months ago, honestly. Like, once in a while, I'll still tweet something, but yeah, it's
Yep, done.
We'll see how this draft goes. If they're not even going to keep their pick, but Audibles and Analytics, Substack, $5 a month or $50 for the year. A lot of content on there. Probably it is pretty. I produce more content than I should given what I charge, but I love producing content. I don't really care about the money part. So if you're able to support, awesome. Let me know if you're not able to, if that's not in the cards for you right now to afford, but you'd like access to the content. Hit me up on Twitter at Ledyard NFL Draft is the Twitter handle to be able to follow what I produce and usually I post stuff on there too that I write, but lots of scouting reports, like tons of them right now, including all the edge guys we talked about today. I think there's scouting reports up there on the site, and Ollie Connolly and I do 2 or 3 shows a week, usually 2 shows a week, and we go deep dives. Like it's like 4 hours of content a week, and we do position groups. So we're going position group by position group, as I mentioned. We'll do corners this week. We'll do offensive linemen. We'll do linebackers right before the draft, which I know a lot of Bucs fans are going to be really interested. So good time to subscribe. Just do a month if you don't want to. If you love the content, maybe you'll stay on board. But if not, if you're like, yeah, heck yeah, this sounds awesome, I want to go $50 and do it, that's great too. Whatever floats your boat. But that's where you can find a lot of my content.
I'd highly recommend, even if it is just for the month, like John said, because that's the way to get you in. Because once you're in, you're going to be hooked. The scouting reports and the podcasts are just so incredible. And there's a lot of times too, especially for, obviously my audience is Bucs fans. During the season, there's one every week usually. Yeah. I'm sure you'll do one here with Josh soon before the draft.
Yeah. We'll do one before the draft and probably at least one after the draft too. So yeah, we do a Bucs podcast weekly in season for sure.
So it's a lot of great stuff there too, and he'll even drop you a free nugget here and there. So definitely look out for those. But John, always a pleasure.
Behind the paywall, brother.
John,
keep it behind the paywall. It keeps the agents off your back.
I owe a lot to John. He'll tell me I owe a lot to myself. But John he's a scout by nature. He scouted me from division, the D leagues in Bucs media, and brought me up to Peter Report, and then he left me abruptly, which shattered my world. And he wanted to go help other kids, I guess, find their calling, whatever. And he does an amazing job with that. But he's a dear friend, and his just incredible work is incredible. I owe so much to him, and I appreciate you. And I'll never not tell you that in public, in private. You're the man. So
you're the man, dude. I appreciate you. Yeah, you do awesome work, and always a pleasure when I have some time to be able to come on the pod with you. I don't do many guest pods these days because I just don't have time because I have a full-time job and I try and watch as many prospects as I can. But I always try to make time for your show because I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you so much, John. Thank you so much, Mr. Jon Ledyard. Appreciate you. Thanks for popping on. Talk to you soon. That's going to do it. We went long. John gave us some extra time, just like Trevor. Us Pewter Report alumni, we stick together. We set an hour, and then maybe we'll go a little bit longer, because it's a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun. And hope we brought you guys some great content that you enjoyed. Definitely, again, make sure you like, subscribe. Even if you're going to watch or on YouTube, on Twitter when we post it, X, whatever you want to call it, or if you're going to listen to it afterwards, do me a favor, just go subscribe. You don't have to turn on notifications. Trying to get those numbers up a little bit more. We're going to get a bunch of players on after the draft, and it doesn't stop. I told you guys before, like I am booked up solid this month. I have so many guests coming on, and again, I'll run through them for you. Just something to look forward to, right? We're going to have Michael Plus from Real Bucs Talk, who we've had on. He'll be on Monday. Ian Cummings from Pro Football Network coming on here on Wednesday. John Vogel, formerly of the Sick Podcast, coming on Friday. Dane Brugler, super excited about this. The Beast drops from him on April 9th. We'll have him on the 14th to break that down. Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network will have him. Lance Zierlin from NFL, one of the lead draft analysts over there. Josh Capo, and I'm mystery guests for the day before the draft. Obviously, we'll be with you after the draft, but just loads of content. We're coming at you Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week coming up towards the draft. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. Again, I'm JC Allen, your host, saying thank you guys. Appreciate everyone. Peace out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.